Welcome back to my channel. Myself Nidhi Pandya, a postgraduate student at Department of English, Maharaja Krishna Kumar Seji Bhavnagar University. As a part of our film study, we are assigned to make a video essay upon the films. And today, I am not going to tell you the story of just two films. Instead, I want to show you how this film talks to us without any words, through the camera, light, the sound, and the cut. I picked two science fiction from the classic Stanley Kubrick's 2001's A Space Odyssey from 1968 and Denis Villeneuve's Blade Runner 2049 from 2017. Villeneuve grew up watching the Kubrick and it shows in almost every one of his films frames. 50 years apart, both of the films ask the same question. What does it mean to see and to be seen? The sixth element which I am going to study in this video essay is the cinematography and the framing. Second, the mise-en-scene. And the third is color paletting. And the sound design, editing and the pacing. And the ideology and the AI representation. The first one is the cinematography, where the framing, camera angle and the centered or the symmetric plot and the shoot and negative space are included. If we talk about the theory in words by André Bazin, a French film theorist who said the camera frame works like a window which is looking out into a bigger world, not a closed flat picture. Because of this, we always sense that life is continuing just past the edges of the shoot. If we talk about in the Blade Runner 2049, where, watch this with me, K stands at his own front door. His hologram girlfriend Joy glows softly beside him in a blue light. In the hallway stands Meredith, a real woman made of the real skin. The camera holds the one single steady shot with the K locked into the middle. Now nobody moves, nobody gets the cut any away from it. I love this shot because it shows the K is stuck, standing between the two kinds of love, and the frame will not let him escape that. If we talk about the cinematography in 2001, A Space Odyssey, we can see here into where the hall is looking at. His camera eye is one glowing red circle, sitting exactly into the middle of the screen. Behind that eye, Dave looks that tiny inside a single and long, perfectly straight hallway. When Hall says that famous line, "Sorry, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that." That straight, balanced hallway suddenly feels like a trap that is closing into him, which makes our engaging the view. But what is the same in cinematography in both films, that both directors trap their characters inside one still perfectly centered shot and let the camera wait, and instead of the rushing the past moment. So what is the difference between them? Villeneuve short films warm and human. Kubrick short films cold and mechanical, which shows the vast difference. Second one is the mise-en-scene. If we talk about the theory in a few words, and by the V.F. Perkins, a British critic, who says that he argues that a film's meaning comes from a coherence of everything placed inside the frame together. Now the set, the light, the costume, the extra stands, not from the camera technique alone, but whose pieces feels like belonging together. We believe we believe that world on the vast screen. And if we talk about the mise-en-scene in Blade Runner 2049, the mise-en-scene means everything that we see, that we really see into the camera, and we see beside the camera work that lightning, shades, costumes and the props. Neon light glows through the rainy windows onto the rooms that hold almost nothing. K's uniform sets him apart from the human officers around him completely. Even a small prop like a Joyce projector reminds me that this is a story about memory and what feels real here. If we talk about this mise-en-scene in 2001, A Space Odyssey, it shows the where the 2001 this Odyssey is quietly opposite of this. Its spaceship is in white, clean and empty, a sign that technology has become perfect, but something human is missing. Now Hall's glowing eye becomes the film's most important object in the room, and the astronauts that stands far apart, rarely touching, as if they have already been replaced by their own machine. If we see the what is the sameness in both of the film, that is that both films uses the frames, not just the camera, to tell me who or what feels most at the home into that space. And what is the difference? That Blade Runner's mission scene is cluttered with the memory and the neon path. But here, Kubrick's stripped bare clean to the point of the feeling inhuman. And the third point is the color and lightning. So, into the simple words of the theory of color and lightning, Roger Deakins and Andre Bazin has said, cinematographer who says that the geometry of life is a bright, even light feels safer and hard dark light feels tense. Now Bazin's idea of the realism adds that a film should light its world the way we would actually see it in a real life, using a source we can see or imagine rather than obvious studio lighting. If we talk this about into the Blade Runner 2049, I watched Joyce steps inside a Merit's body so Kay can finally touch her or hold her. Joyce's cold blue glow and the Merit's warm skin tone never quite line up. There is a small flicker between them, and I find that beautiful and sad at the time. That tiny mismatch is of the light of the film and quietly telling me that love can never be fully physically real. The amber irritation ruins the Las Vegas letter and the film work with the same way. The entire color is standing in the memory that will not fully return. If we talk about this scene and into the 2001 Space Odyssey, that it shows when we opening of the movie where the sunlight burns bright over the over a dry and empty plain, then a plain black slab appears out of the Navi world, and the monolith it swallows every bit of the light and gives nothing back. I see it as a whole hollow punctured into a bright world, telling me that something has arrived far from outside the nature. If we now talk about what is same both of the movies, then the both scene uses light that will not fully match its own surroundings, but to show that something is quite not human but also not real. And what is the difference into that color and paletting? And Blade Runner's light is soft while colorful and emotional, while the Kubrick's light is bright, neutral and almost frightening as it is plainness. If we talk about the fourth element, the sound design, where its theory into the simple world is given by the Michael Chion, a French sound theorist who coined the term osmotic sound. Any sound whose source we can hear but cannot actually see on the screen. These gaps make our imagination feel the missing picture. And there are also two kind of sounds. There are non-diegetic sound and diegetic sound. If we talk about Blade Runner 2049 movie, I hear almost nothing here. Just wind and one long lump sitting under everything. There is no music yet and barely any dialogue. That emptiness really tell me that this is about the tiredness, grey world, and before a single word gets out the spoken. And this is also same into the 2001 movie.
Dave, my mind is going. I can feel it.
When we listen, the halls shut down. All I hear is Dave's breathing inside his helmet and Hall's voice slowly failing apart, singing Daisy Bells completely alone, with no music behind him. Kubrick refuses to comfort me within the score here. I think that raw silence is exactly what makes this death feel really so real. Now, both of the films pull the music away at the most crucial moment, that living beside which leaves us into an emotional state we can't describe. And the Blade Runner uses sound to build the feeling of space before anything happens, and 2001 movie uses sound to make one event, a death, feel unbearably close. If we talk about the fifth element, the editing and the pacing. Theory into the simple words by the Bordwell and the Thompson, husband and wife couple, this scholar has used the term narrative tempo to describe how the fast or the slow of films relive its story to us, a speed that controlled almost entirely through the editing choices. If we talk about into the first movie, Blade Runner, when I watched the K walk through the huge echoing halls into one single and unbroken shot, Villeneuve never once cut out away. I feel every second of walk and that patience that makes the space around the cave feel even bigger and even lonelier. If we talk this about in a Space Odyssey, where Kubrick does something even bolder, in 50 years ago, that a bone flies into the air and in single cut it becomes an orbiting satellite millions of the years later. Then later still, this is calm, slow pace of the ball film breaks completely into the fast flashing Stargate sequence. Watching it, I feel time myself. That is which bending there. Both directors treat editing as meaningful as they can, not as the background theoretical work. And Kubrick swings between the very slow and very fast, while Villeneuve stay between them, were slow and patient all the way through. Now, sixth element of my study is the ideology and the AI is a brief presentation. If we talk about the theory, where Christian Metz argued that the film works like a language and made of a science we learn to read almost without noticing, an idea called film semiotics. Gilles Deleuze took this further, writing that cinema does not just show us the images, it actually thinks in the images. If we talk this about Blade Runner, then every time I see Jo, I notice her blue glow first and the way her edges flicker gently wherever she is feeling unsure or unstable. The camera always keeps her in a light separate from real warm human light. That is how I know that she is not human, and even before she says a word, zoom out and the giant holograms towering around the case, tiny figure become a visual metaphor of their own. Advertising and cooperating power swallowing anyone's identity, that human or not. Blade Runner asks, if a being can love, remember and grieve, does it matter that it was built and not born? And this is the what Space Odyssey also says, that all is just one fixed red light and one calm level voice, no facet at all. I only truly feel his humanity in the moment. That calm voice starts to shake and slow down right before he dies. That small crack in his perfect performance is exactly where I feel the most alive. And his calm betrayal earlier shows a deeper fear that what might we create might one day outgrow us too. So both AI characters feel most human exactly when their calm control science starts to break. What is the difference? That Hall has no body, only a light and voice. Joy has a projected body, but it depends completely on the light to seem present at all. If we talk about both movies and when we conclude, before that, I see a future scope while reading the both movie, where I can use the AI alignment and the synthetic companionship, the modern field that studies how to keep AI systems goals matched to human intention and values, even if it grows more capable. And the synthetic companionship shows the emotional bond formed with the AI presence and designed to feel caring and the responding. In small words, we can see that this can be included into the post-cinematic effect, a term coined by Steven Shaver in 2010, described the anxious feeling running through the films made into our digital camera everywhere. It's the feeling of living inside constant surveillance, data collection, and corporate control. So before I closed it, two films today, Hall's calm refusal to obey is now studied as an early picture of alignment problem, making sure that systems goals still match what we actually want, even once it is more capable than us. If we move towards the conclusion, so here it was, I want you to remember that 50 years apart, both films tell their story through the camera, the light, the sound, the cut, not only through the words. That to me is the whole point of the film studies. A film is not a book with the pictures, but it has its own language. After spending real time with these exact scenes and timestamps, I cannot watch Hall's Red Eye or Joel's Blue Light the same way again. I see that the craft now, not just a story. Watching these two films side by side, I don't just see the two science fiction alone, the stories. I see the same question asked twice. As we build the minds, worlds like our own, what part of ourselves are we leaving behind? So this is it. This is from my side. Thank you for watching.